Welcome back. In this lecture, we will discuss on AKS uptime SLA. As we know, AKS is free. You only pay for the agent node within your cluster. You don't need to pay anything for the master or control plane. By default, clusters on the free SKU tier support few replicas and limited resources for the control plane and are not suitable for production workload. It has less SLA by default. You can enable uptime SLA to get higher SLA for your cluster. It is always recommended to have uptime SLA enabled for your production grade cluster. Uptime SLA is also referred as paid tier to enable higher SLA for your cluster. It comes with greater amount of control plane resources and automatically scale to meet the load of your cluster. Uptime SLA guarantees 99.95% availability of the Kubernetes API server endpoint that uses availability zones and 99.9% availability for the cluster that don't use availability zone. AKS uses master node replica across update and fault domain to ensure SLA requirements are met. You can create a new cluster with uptime SLA enabled, or you can upgrade existing free tier cluster to paid tier, that is uptime SLA. Let's jump into Azure portal and see that in action. I am in Azure portal in Cloud Shell. So as we discussed on the slide, we can create a new cluster with uptime SLA enabled, or we can upgrade existing free tier cluster to paid tier. So in this demo, I will upgrade my existing cluster to paid tier, that is uptime SLA. I'm already running a Kubernetes cluster with single node. Let's first check the SLA tier for this cluster. I will run az AKS show command to see the current tier. Under SKU, we can see tier is set to free. So that means that is a free tier cluster. Let's update this cluster with uptime SLA. And the command for that is az AKS update resource group, my resource group, name of your cluster, that is my AKS cluster, hyphen uptime hyphen SLA. This command will take some time to update the tier from free to paid. Let's come back once the command is successful. Command is now successful. I can see now the tier is set to paid tier. Right? So this is how we can enable uptime SLA on the existing cluster. At any point of time, you can opt out of using uptime SLA by updating your cluster to change it back to free tier. Let's do that. This time I'm using the parameter --no -uptime -SLA. This command will take some time, so let's discuss on pricing enabling uptime SLA of the cluster. I already have opened a Azure documentation. In this section, they explained about the costing of enabling uptime SLA. Financially backed service SLA agreement that guarantees an uptime of 99.95% of the cluster API server for cluster that uses availability zone and 99.9% for the cluster that do not use availability zone. So the costing of a cluster with uptime SLA enabled is 0.10 per cluster per hour. And also please note, updating your cluster to start or stop using uptime SLA does not disrupt its normal operation or impact to the running application. I'm back to the Cloud Shell. I can now see the SKU tier is set back to free. Right, so that's it for this lecture. I hope you liked it. Thank you.